All right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley, where today we will be looking back on Charlton's 0-0 draw with QPR. Not a boring one, though. First of all, obviously we didn't have the episode last week. I've got another son, kid number 3, who's entered the world, and he entered the world just as Lyndon Dykes was hitting the back of the net.
Good timing, to be fair.
It was kind of, he was just it was all kind of coming to the moment, and then my phone just popped up and I just saw 2-0 Lyndon Dykes, and I thought, there we go.
I thought something was up. You went a bit quiet when I was texting you. So.
I tried to put the name Lyndon past my wife, but
Nah.
yeah, she wasn't having any of it. So
that's a tough one, that.
Yeah, tried my best, but yes. So we are back, and as I say, looking over that Oxford wasn't Oxford, QPR 0-0. What were your thoughts on kind of the game?
To be fair, I thought we looked a lot better. I thought when the lineup came out, I actually thought, yes, like we're finally sort of getting players in the positions they're supposed to be playing in. We'd already seen how it was more effective against Leicester, and obviously the two wing backs now, Chambers and Clark, are settling in.
Mm-hmm.
Then now we've got that wing back system with actual wing backs in there who are getting up the pitch, crossing the ball in. We are now seeing how that system can work with the right players. And it's really nice to see, because actually that's really what Jones has been trying to do the whole time, but he's been forcing it with players out of position. So I thought that first half for us was really strong, and considering QPR have come off the back of a win against Coventry, albeit at Loftus Road, but you'd say their tails were up. They have got a fair few injuries at the moment, so we knew that they were going to be a little bit depleted, but we really did impose ourselves in that first half. We created a lot of chances as well, which we've really struggled to do recently. So that was another really encouraging one.
And I think it was an interesting one coming from the Leicester game as well, because for the Leicester one, as good as it was, and to get those 3 points, and the performance overall was pretty good, pretty drab second half, but overall a good performance. But it was from 15 minutes, 10 men, and I think it's very difficult. It's always difficult to judge completely off that. And going into this game, I thought was probably one of our most important follow-up games of the season. Because it was, can we actually take this now into these pretty essential 3 home games in a row? And I felt we did, 100%.
We put a performance in, which is what we've all really wanted to see, is, like you said, backing up a good performance with another one.
I think performance points are so integral at the moment, but I think coming into that tail end of the season, performances to kind of go into that.
It's another clean sheet as well, and to be honest, like
I want to play as number 9 or 10 this season.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Kaminsky's got 9 or 10 now, but what I would say as well is we were looking more promising going forward, but again, we kept them to very little in terms of shooting at our goal. There was a lot of long shots. Towards the end, we started tiring, and they got a few more away. But it's another clean sheet, so that's back-to-back Leicester QPR. They're good teams.
Well, and I also think we've got to look at it and say that most of the games this season where we're coming out either 0-0, we've lost 1-0, whatever it might be, we've had a criminally kind of low amount of chances. And actually, this is one of those games I think we walk away saying, do you know what, it was just one of those days, and there's another day where a good few of those chances go in. And I think my gut feeling, kind of just looking back on it briefly, was I think our game plan was to do that, get the goal, maybe 1 or 2 goals, and then sit in. And because those goals didn't come, we'd kind of exhausted ourselves, and that's where at the tail end of the game, definitely some legs were showing.
I want to say, like, their keeper played a blinder today. Like, he made some really good saves, albeit some of them from quite close range. He came out quickly for a number of our chances, managed to get himself in the way, and actually, like you said, on another day we tuck away a couple of those and we go on and win it 1-2-0. But
I thought Steve Cook as well for them today was
just a bit of a wily old fox.
He is, but he was very those kind of players. It can go kind of one or two ways. And actually, I thought today he
solid
was
as a rock,
very solid, and showed his experience in that squad. So what we'll do, we will go into a little bit more detail into the game. But first of all, we just wanted to discuss, because we missed last week's episode, we have a few signings that we just wanted to quickly kind of go over. Tiernan Brooks coming in, goalkeeper.
That's
know
cover.
Yeah, it was Maynard Brewer going out. Jaden Fevrier, so obviously coming in on loan, with Tanto going the other way. One that I have to admit, when it first came through, I remember I texted you straight away, and I was very, very confused trying to piece it together. I think the more I look at it, the more it kind of makes sense
It's
as a.
pretty much a like for like in terms of the style of player, I think.
But I
Pretty
think it's
much.
more putting it in strike now. We don't need, particularly at the moment. I think Tanto would end up kind of sitting there as a very, very backup option, whereas Fevrier probably gives us cover in a position we need. He's a little bit more on that right
He
wing
can
back
play as a right
and play left
back.
wing back as well.
Yeah.
So probably gives us cover more. I think he is there as a squad player, but
I saw as well, like Jones in his interview when he discussed the transfer end of the transfer window. I don't think in an ideal world he wanted to get rid of Tanto, but I think if Tanto had to go Stockport, there had to be something coming back the other way to sort of fill the hole essentially.
and as I say, I think it makes sense because with Tanto, as much as I can see the frustration and probably more down to the kind of money, I think we've said this many a time on here. I think there's a lot of players who we've got to look at as slightly longer term prospects. And I think that probably moves quite nicely onto one of the outgoing, which was Rob Apter. And I know this is one that caused a lot of upset.
Yeah.
I kind of understand, as much as I'm frustrated and I think there is a place for him in the team, in what we're probably going for this year, I don't think he suits that right wing-back role. I think we're going to play out the rest of this season as a more defensively minded wing-back system. But I think Apter in the future potentially is more that final goal of where Jones sees the squad. And for that, actually sending him out on loan, getting that development is better than him just languishing on the bench.
Well, also going to a club like Bolton, they're going to be challenging up the top end of League One table. It's a good opportunity for him to get some game time in a team that's clearly going to be performing well, albeit at a slightly lower level. But that's really the level he's used to. He's not been above the level of League One before he came to us. I think the reason there's frustration from certain fans is there's been certain games where he's come in, he's actually done pretty well, and he's sort of looked very dangerous. And it's almost like, okay, why don't we give him a bit more game time to see if he can sort of bed himself into the team? But I think you hit the nail on the head. Actually, is that sort of system we're having to put in place this season?
Yeah.
And that, I think I'd stress that, is this season we're having to be a bit more defensive, especially on the wing sides.
Well, I think we've seen where some of our biggest problems are where we've had like a TC or an Apter type on that wing-back role, and defensively we've got overrun. And actually where we're seeing Harry Clark, who's probably more defensive minded but still can get up the pitch, and we're seeing the same with the Chambers on the left side. It gives that bit more solidarity, which I don't think is the end goal. But with that being the case, as I say, that's where I see the Apter one. I see where the frustration comes from, but I actually kind of understand it, and I don't think it's the worst.
It's not. It's definitely not the worst thing, and I think actually, hopefully, he'll come back to us with a bit more confidence, a bit more game time, and then next season, like you said, hopefully we can push him a bit higher up the pitch and actually start playing him.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that all comes from having a more creative centre, a little bit more of a championship-ready centre, which hopefully, if we can stay in the division, which we will
in the summer,
he'll then come back in the summer and start to really bed into that role.
Yeah.
Moving on then to the next one, Connor Cody. I still to this day find it amazing some ways in which some fans talk about him like he's this ancient relic.
Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant signing, and
we've
already seen. Obviously, we're lucky that we're not just talking about it fresh. We've seen the kind of impact he'll have, but for me, the experience and the voice he brings,
that's a big part,
is so huge. And I think we've seen it even with like Greg Doherty coming back into the squad. As much as we've and ahed over players like that as well, we went through in that really tough period where we were just free falling, which I feel like we've put a bit of a stopgap in now. I think the biggest thing that was so noticeable was no one taking control, no voice in the squad. And I think players like Connor Cody come with heaps of experience, and the actual quality of the player, which is still very high, is not the essential part of that signing. And I think that's probably, out of all of our signings, the one that potentially could actually give us the boost in the areas we need, not on a technical level, to actually keep us in the division.
I was with you as well. I was seeing some reactions online, and I was thinking like this is a player with a lot of experience. Like, not only has he played a lot of games in the Premier League, he also, like you said, is a leader, and you only have to watch his interviews, to be fair. He does still now, I think, because he's getting a bit further in his career, he started to do a bit more TV.
He's doing punditry.
You see him on like the Sky Sports.
Because I think that's some of the Leicester fans were saying he's almost more of a pundit than he is a player now.
But even when you hear him talk, you can tell he's very established. He knows the game very well. And you can see how actually having him sitting in, and I know Jones is obviously playing him in that central defensive mid role, rotating during the game between sort of defensive mid and the centre back role, he is that middle of the park where he's got a voice. So you can see him. I saw him in his first game. He was in talking to Lloyd Jones, telling him like we're moving up, down. That voice is crucial in this run of games where we're going to need leadership. And like you said, it was something we're probably lacking. And when we've criticised Doherty in terms of his ability at times, but one thing he has always brought, and we will never criticise him for, is his voice and his sort of leadership role. And actually having those two back in has probably made a big difference to the actual sort of morale, the boosting the overall team to just push themselves forward. So I was really pleased with that performance. I think the only thing I saw negative about Cody when we signed him was a lot of Wrexham fans were saying he was getting rinsed for pace, and that's why they dropped him. But realistically, we've got some pace at the back anyway. So if we play him in that,
well, also if we're playing him, and I think the interesting thing with him is, I think he used to, for Wolves back in the day, play a holding mid role, and obviously everyone knows him as the centre back who went on to really do good things, get his England caps and everything like that. But the fact he can play that holding mid role with your Ramseys and Bells who are slightly more athletic behind, I think it's incredible. But I also think one of the things that, I didn't see this, especially when we first signed him, but where I actually think in that role he can be so essential, is he actually allows the freedom of both Amari Bell and Kane Ramsey to push up, because what he is he is a centre back as well, and he can drop from that holding mid.
It's a pivot role, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's quite incredible. It can be this kind of really overlapping, and I hadn't expected that.
No, one other thing I noticed even in tonight's match was he is actually able to ping a pass as well. So actually him sitting in that deep role, he played a few nice crossfield balls.
But that's kind of the Premier League experience, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, you can't have no ability in that capacity. Especially in the modern game, you have to have an element of kind of ball playing, albeit I don't think it's his absolute strength. But similar to how we talk about Amari Bell, that calmness, that presence, I think comes from playing at that higher level, and something we desperately have needed to, especially get control of certain games.
I think a top signing.
Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with that. I think the only thing I noticed, and I definitely noticed it today, is you can tell he hasn't played much in regards to and not even just rusty, just the match fitness, and you can see his legs start to go at a certain point. So and arguably probably the most exciting signing of them all, one that's kind of taken our social media by storm, is Collins Sichenje. Plucked out of kind of nowhere. I have to admit, is one that we've been linked with
for a while.
And I think I'd seen all of the links, but all of the outlets it was being reported by, I have to admit, I just saw it as a bit of a...
Well, it was like, obviously, Serbian league, so you was getting some sort of journalists out there who were pretty low level, who was sort of tweeting that he'd already signed the deal. And
I saw it was on like African outlets and stuff and Kenyan outlets that it was happening, but I don't
nowadays with AI and stuff, you wonder, don't you? You're like, is this actually real? But then eventually Cooley obviously came out and said that he is a link, and they're trying to get it over the line, and obviously he's come in. Like you said, it's taken the social media by storm. It's absolute influx of Kenyans.
It is, and I look, really exciting.
For it, yeah.
I find it an exciting signing, because I can't remember the last time we just plucked someone out of kind of European leagues, and someone who's a bit more of a, what I look at as like your
enforcer.
And look, I will not sit here and I will confess that I do not know anything about him.
No.
I've seen small kind of highlights of what I can of him. He looks quite athletic. I'm sure coming into the Championship as well, there'll be a lot of polishing off certain traits. But yeah, I'm all for it. I'm excited, and I think the things that I see towards it as well is, I think potentially looking down, we've discussed regarding that athleticism needed in the back line. People like Amari Bell, who we know fitness-wise probably isn't going to cover a whole season. Is there a role for him to play there 100%? Could he be an absolute steal? And we're talking about him as one of our best signings of recent years, maybe.
Who knows? He's 22 as well, so obviously we signed him on a 3.5-year deal, but it's encouraging that we're looking at players with potential, players that are clearly athletic, that are looking like they're strong sort of candidates to really sort of bed in if they're good enough. And like you said, I watched a few of his like YouTube highlight reels, which are always you sort of do when someone comes in. But he puts himself about and he does fly into tackles. And actually, if you're doing that in the Serbian league, where Serbians, you're renowned for, like, you got Mitrovic and Vidic and players.
Well, I think that's the club we signed him from. I'm pretty sure. Is it Ivanovic? The guy from Mill.
Oh, the Mill striker. Yeah.
He also came from them. So clearly, they're a club who can produce good players as well.
Exactly. So it's really exciting, actually, and like we said, actually getting that following from Kenya is going to be really interesting because all of a sudden we got a bit of a fan base in Africa. So
Just got to make sure he's playing, but he was in the squad
he
today.
was.
which a lot of
He
people
made the
questioning,
bench. He
so-
made the bench.
and I think he's going to be one of those that I think this season probably going to be more limited. I think we've got our pretty much what Jones probably wants from this season, but definitely potentially backup. And look, once he steps in, we're all for any player.
It only
coming
takes
in
one injury as well, doesn't it? Which we see regularly.
one injury and some good performances from him, and he could become a staple in that team. So,
Yeah.
I find that a very, very exciting one and an interesting one. So,
Mm.
well, that's it for kind of. The final one, I guess, Roy Anderson as well, going out on loan. I think I've never seen a better move for him, his career. For me, we've talked about overcoming kind of weeks gone by. I don't think currently he is near championship quality. I think Blackpool's probably a good kind of loan.
Yeah.
For the club, I look at it both ways. If he can come back and show more quality and become more of a championship quality player, brilliant. If not, sending these players out on loan, getting a reputation, and look, let's be honest, if we have to sell him next summer, or we get a bid for him, that's not a bad thing.
If he plays well for Blackpool and they really rate him, they might want to sign him. So.
Well, I think as a club and as a model, we've got to look at we've been criminally bad at letting a lot of players go without actually getting the right fees. And sometimes the development of our youth academy isn't just to be in the first team setup; it's actually to get them out there, and potentially they are a League One player, but a good one. And you might get 500 grand, 600 grand, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the exciting thing about a lot of these players going out there now is that we're actually starting to be run. I think after years of being run so shambolically, we're actually running as like a club again.
Yeah.
Which is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
And you look at the loan players we've got out now. Can you remember a season gone by where that was the case?
No. And I think it's just sensible loans, isn't it? It's like loaning players out to teams we know that they could flourish in. And that's what you want to see. So,
100%. Well, let's move back into the QPR game then. So that first half, I think it's definitely where our best side kind of came out. I thought the game started, it looked like it was going to be quite end-to-end game. Very early on, I thought it might be another one where they were down to 10 men. I don't think it was.
No.
But it was one of those, you saw the start, and when you watch the replay, you thought, with the kind of luck we've, well, I don't know luck, but with the kind of ones we've had against us recently, I thought, oh my God, are we going to be here again?
It's a bit of a Kevin Nash big boot, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. When you look it back, it didn't look, I thought it was nothing in the first place, but it was.
Yeah. No, yellow's probably fair, but
there was no intent.
No, it was clumsy. Yeah.
But then we really get into the kind of chances, and I think we started to ramp up a gear from that end-to-end start. We really started to take control of the game, something we really have struggled with, but something we did with chance creation as well, which is such a rarity. And that started with, I believe it was Lyndon Dykes, brilliant play from Doherty to get the ball back, just tenacious.
Yeah.
I thought what he was showing all day, to be honest. Played into Dykes, got a shot away, quite a good shot, took a deflection.
Yeah.
But I think it started to ramp the crowd up.
I think also Dykes was starting to, what he did immediately was impose himself. And this is why we brought him in, to be fair, was being that target man. But also he's got a bit of nous about him to sort of play off people. He bullied their defence, to be fair. And actually, I think he was a handful for them all day.
Yeah.
That first strike was decent.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's kind of set the tone. And we went into a real period of kind of dominance. We had the Chambers free kick, which...
clever.
He's got a hell of a. He's technically wise. He's very, very talented.
He's come through Liverpool's academy, so clearly, like, he's got ability. He's going to have a good technical part to his game, and actually, you're starting to see that. The more he's sort of bedding in now, you're starting to see he's very, very good. He can get a really nice cross in as well, which is really refreshing actually, because that's something we've missed as well.
Yeah. We then kind of moved on from there. I think the next one was the Connor Cody, where it bumbled through, debatable handball with Ramsey, I think it was, but it was quite a mucky kind of to get there. But the keeper, to be fair,
Keeper did well.
Keeper came off his line really, really quickly, was big.
Cody couldn't have done any more than that. He's got to be fair, he got a solid strike on, but the keeper's just come out and sort of done a bit of a Schmeichel and just made himself big.
But it just kept applying that pressure, and I'd say that first half, the chance creation, the movement, I thought was a bit quicker. I still feel at times, sometimes we are, when you watch teams like QPR, but we see it quite a lot, they do sometimes play those triangles and the pass is all a bit quicker and break through. They looked like, I wasn't massively impressed by QPR.
I think...
I thought we kept control of players like Kone incredibly well. I thought... is it Sato on the wing? I thought we kept him in.
Well, he was really dangerous in the first game we played against them at Loftus Road. I think he scored a goal against us in that game. But he was very quiet, and that's down to us, really. We kept him quiet. And
we look, with that setup, incredibly much more balanced. And yes, look, it's always going to be on the slightly more defensive side. There isn't a huge level of creative players in there,
No.
but it does kind of work.
Yeah, and then you've still got the Carey. Now that you've got Cody sitting in the defensive mid, you had Doherty working as sort of the bulldog in the middle. That does then give Carey the license to do his little runs, jinx in. Carey got quite a few shots away today, but obviously a lot of them were just a little bit wild.
Yeah.
But that's where it only takes one of those strikes that we know he has in his locker to tuck a one away.
100%. And I think there's another day where 100% we're going at least 1-0 up at half time, but we weren't. We've seen Charlton be a side of two halves many a time this season, but we came back out, and I thought once again they looked a little bit more on it coming out that second half. Definitely seemed like they had a bit of a rollicking, but we were still creating more chances. And granted, some of them were a bit messy and a bit this and that, but what I loved seeing was it reminded me of very much the start of the season, that tenacity, that energy. And I think that's what we went for. We went for kind of blitz them, and the hope was that in those moments we'd get a goal, and I think on another day we do. We had the Kelman chance, so
quite clever little,
quite clever little kind of quick get out his feet strike. I think from there as well, we then moved on to the Addicks second chance.
Quite a big chance,
just kind of winning headers, winning extra, wanted it more. I think out of all our chances, that's the one probably where I'd look at and say I think he has to do better.
I think the first strike was, again, he did, to be fair, he caught it, and the keeper's done exactly similar to what he did against Cody.
A big gap down to his left, though.
It's
just that.
I
know it's a topo, but he did have that direction of where he could go, and I think
when it fell back to him, and then he obviously just put it wide of the post, which was frustrating. But Addicks was a nuisance all day, and actually he created those chances.
He was sensational.
He really was. And I think I mentioned how good he was against Leicester in a tweet I think I put out like last week, but he really is starting to show why he was brought in, and actually he's clever the way he does turn players. He makes it really difficult for defenders to actually like get on the end of things. So really pleased with the way he's sort of bedded in, actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think that was kind of the moment. We had a few other kind of chances, but I felt probably after that Addicks chance, I can't remember what minute it was, but it was about the 70th that we started. In my opinion, I think the biggest thing is our legs felt like they went, and I think some of that comes down to certain legs of certain players as well. So we've got, let's be honest, Chambers, who's building up to match fitness, been out for a long time. Cody, Doherty hasn't been playing loads. And I felt that kind of showed, and I felt that was the point where QPR could get into the game, and I think the game plan by them was not that we'd still be having to press as hard as we were.
I think you're right as well. I think the tiredness started to come in those positions, the wing backs, which is where we were sort of trying to get ourselves up the pitch majority of the time, but also in the centre, like I said, Doherty as well. That then starts to, when you get the ball back in your own defence and try and push the ball up the pitch, if you're running out of energy, it's quite hard to push the ball up. I thought, actually, I was wondering whether when Campbell came on, and he did make a bit of an impact, actually.
He had an instant impact when he got down that line.
Straight in.
I have to admit, after that, though, I didn't feel like we...
No, but I did wonder if when he came in, and I knew Godden would come on at some point, whether those two subs would make a difference, whether we could maybe use those two to really push on.
I thought Godden looked a bit rusty. Well, come on, he's going to. I thought he well, I have to admit, it's kind of one what probably goes on to. I thought all day, Addicks, I thought was absolutely kind of sensational.
Yeah.
I felt like the strikers running off him today probably, with Godden maybe a bit more understandable. Kelman, I thought, as they looked,
Kelman didn't have his best game.
Yeah, didn't have a great game. So I felt kind of, actually, it was one of those where had another player there been a little bit more on form, we probably would have created a little bit more damage.
That's fair. But yeah, obviously we brought those two boys on around the sort of 70, 75 minute mark. But I think because, like you said, we were starting to tire, QPR were then trying to get themselves back on the ball, which they managed to do. One player was quite impressive for them, actually. Their left back, I think he was.
Norrington Davies.
Yeah, so every time he got the ball, they were pinging the ball across to him. He was kind of chesting it, and it was pushing him up the pitch. And he was one that, as soon as he got the ball, he was just driving the ball up the pitch. And actually, he'd stretched the game quite.
And I think when Collie came on, the wild sideshow Gob kind of haircut, I thought it was Hannibal at first. I really did. I was like, when did he sign for them? But I thought when he came on, they kind of started to cause quite a lot of damage down that side.
I agree. Yeah, we were then actually at that point. I was thinking, okay, we in the beginning of the game, I was sort of thinking we should be going on and winning this, but actually by the end, it was one of those, and we've had it a few times this season where we've sort of tailed off. you're almost thinking, okay, a draw is not a bad result in the grand scheme of it.
Well, and I think if we had have had that performance and come away having lost 1-0 at
I'd
the
be
dying embers, I think it would have done
gutted.
really quite damaging to the confidence. So I think,
Yeah.
look, I think for 70 minutes we were significantly the better team and they struggled to create anything. From there onwards, when you probably look at chances over the course of the game,
They were coming on quite
they had
strong.
Vale, I think it was, who was in one-on-one. They had Kone had a couple of chances.
Hot shots. So Madsen had one that was
Madsen,
sort of bit soft shot.
Yeah, so they had quite a few different kind of chances there.
One thing we do, the one that we do need to talk about actually was Kaminsky's save at the end.
Wow, yeah. Well, that was against Collie, wasn't it?
It was,
So,
yeah.
I thought TC, that's one thing where I will maybe give him a bit more negative side. I thought he gave away the ball some really ultra silly positions, especially with the fact our legs had gone. Sloppy, and we couldn't really cover those areas.
You could hear the groans in the crowd as well. It was one of those where I think he did it a couple of times, and actually the second time was when that actually resulted in that big chance, which Kaminsky massively bailed us out with.
Hell of a save.
Great save. And these, again, I know like he has taken some stick, but he does keep us in games like regularly. Some of those stops he makes are really, really class.
And I thought it was quite interesting as well because I thought the save was brilliant, but I also thought his distribution, not necessarily long kick wise, they kind of was the same, but throwing and actually quickly looking and like getting it out wide and actually so we can push up, that made a huge difference. And it's something we haven't seen. We always get it and then we just lump it up. And actually, it was quite a few times he was looking wide. And I don't know, QPR were giving us the space to sometimes do it, but it was nice to see.
You know what? I think now, but because like we said at the beginning of the show, like that now we've got the wing backs who are actually playing in the positions they should be. They're probably showing more, and it's giving the defence a bit of an opportunity to sort of spread themselves out a bit and then create that sort of early throw out. It's also probably something that they've been working on, to be fair, because it's not his biggest attribute. Shot stopping definitely is, and actually I thought he was very brave actually in that.
I think he took quite a hit.
He did.
He
did.
One thing we have brushed over as well, which is I think it was a Charlton of old, and my heart, Ramsey, when he, my God, he missed the ball, then he like stumbled, then he kicked it, and I thought, oh no.
It was Kone as well, who's lightning. I was thinking, and he's a finisher as well.
So I think we got away with one massively there, and if we had have had it all pulled apart because of that,
would have been gutting.
It would have been very gutting. But it didn't, and we got to the end of the game, as squeaky bum as it was towards the end. Yeah, I think in the end, I still feel we should have. Over the course of the game, I feel like we kind of allowed them the chances at the end. There is a game there where we can take it. I'm not sure through huge fault of our own. I think it was one of those days. Even Carey, for example, we got him in some good positions, and he just couldn't quite put it in.
He wasn't quite on it today, Carey.
No, but he had a criminal one. I'm sorry, but when he took a shot, and I know we've spoken so many times, he's absolutely kind of belted it in the back of the net. There was one where Clark was to the right-hand side and he was furious, and rightfully so. I think if he had just played a light pass, Clark's in on goal. And I'm not saying Clark...
Do you remember at the start of the season, he had one like that where I remember Jones was getting livid because he didn't play him in and he actually pinged it in the back of the net. And that's
the thing. If you're going to take a player like Carey, you can't sit there celebrating for the wondrous stuff he does and then be too critical, albeit in that moment you just felt the way his day had kind of gone. It didn't feel like it was quite clicking on that final...
The striking.
Yeah, striking the ball. But it's what it is.
It is what it is. Like you say, on another day, you might lash that in the top corner and no one's talking about it, are they? So
one of those days. So, that's the game over. So let's talk about the kind of good players, bad players. I don't think it was one where I could massively criticise many performances. I think there definitely was some standout good performances, 100%.
Yeah.
I think there's also some kind of special mentions in there. I thought Kaminsky was brilliant for those little moments. I thought Amari Bell as well, I thought was really good. I thought he played the ball well. He looked sometimes, I did feel like it was one of those days he might just quite overhit it, but he's
doing a lot of...
So calm.
He did a few more of his little ones where you think he's going one way and then he just swivels the other way.
I just he didn't quite have the match fitness at the moment to get away with some of them. He only just about.
I tell you what, though, I do love having him in the team. He's a class player. I really rate him.
No, definitely. And the two other special mentions, without going into our kind of top players, I thought both wing backs. Chambers, I thought was brilliant. I thought Chambers, up to the point it felt like his legs went, I thought was really good, and then he kind of started to make a few little mistakes. Clark, I really like Clark.
I think he looks really good.
I'm a huge fan. He's actually technically very good as well. Like his ball's
Great
crossing in, yeah.
today.
He's very good at crossing. And now we've actually got 2 outlets on those wing backs for crossing.
Yeah,
I think it makes a huge difference. But
yeah, it does.
let's start with the ones that actually get into our, we'll call it our top 3 because they're the ones we've chosen. I think to start with, one that we go over and over, but I thought was so immense up against a tough task. Lloyd Jones and up against Kone. I thought he's had now quite a few games against Kone because obviously we played him last season as well. It feels like he's got his number. He pockets him so well, and he plays so. We were playing really tight to players anyway, and it worked so well. But he was just immense again, winning every header. And as I say, I just think it just never ceases to amaze me how good he's become.
He's still sitting in the team of the year so far in the Who Scored sort of rankings, and I think he's just one of those players you just know every game he's going to be a man mountain, and that's exactly what he is. And actually against someone like Kone, who's actually sort of a really sought-after striker, I saw in the window, I think it might have been Ipswich, were like going for a late move for him, so that's the sort of calibre you're looking at, someone that's playing.
I think with Kone, what you've got is he's incredibly strong. He's
Athletic.
quite quick. He's actually quite technically good as well. He jigs in and out quite a lot. He's a very, very talented striker.
Really hard player to defend against, but Jones makes it look easy, and that's how you know Jones is Rolls Royce, because he does make it look simple. He just dominates his man when he's put to that task. And you're right, he's so good. But also, I saw like Jones apparently, I think he got like Player of the Month. It's like third month in a row.
Yeah.
But he warranties it because he's such a rock at the back. Like
I don't know if there's been much competition over the last.
Probably not. Probably not. But if you're going to look at a player that is just consistent, strong, and just a leader, you look to him every time.
Yeah. Well, we've discussed it many a time. For me, future captain, as long as we can keep hold of him, I would see him as captain material for next year.
He is.
Depending on obviously what happens. But that moves on to the next one quite well, which is Captain Doc. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was very good when he came in for the Leicester game. As we've discussed, for all of the negatives we can bring from him, and he does cause me some frustration over the course of the season, but one thing we've never questioned is his desire, his fight, his voice. And I think at a time where you were on your knees, he is exactly what's needed. And he broke up the game today. He's got that championship experience. To say, even like moments where he missed the first tackle, got the second one in.
Some fouls, didn't he?
Yeah, won some fouls, played that ball in for Dykes for our first chance.
Yep.
I thought sensational.
Really good, really good. And we have to give him credit because, like I said, and we know throughout the season he's had peaks and troughs. He's gone up and down in form, and we've said at times we're not sure he's good enough. We've said we need him out of the side, but actually you're right. At this moment in the season where we need that sort of really strong leadership, that sort of desire, hunger, and actually showing on the pitch, you know, that sort of nature where you're just going for every tackle. That's what he brings, and we've always said that he, no matter what his ability level is, he brings you that tenacity, and
I think for a lot of people you do forget, especially in like relegation scraps or whatever it might be, how many teams have got promoted or saved from relegation off sheer determination and desire, and not the most technically gifted teams, but they just have a togetherness and a spirit about them. And I think that is something that, as I say, coming into this second half of the season, I think Doherty is going to be seen as a really, really important role. And as I say, will we have games we're frustrated? Will we have games where we're slagging them off because technically wasn't very good, or creativity? 100%.
Yeah.
But I think he like, for example, now that centre mid kind of Doherty and Cody, there's voices there. You got Lloyd Jones. He's a good voice, and
the spine actually is looking pretty solid now. Yeah,
interesting one. Before we go on to our final kind of good player, which I think is quite an obvious one to be honest, but obviously Cody stepping into that holding mid role, something that we're probably quite surprised, and I think we said is a mainstay who won't go from this team. Is where do you think that leaves Connor Coventry,
who's been like an absolute sort of number one on the team sheet for a long time? To be fair, I don't know. I think he will eventually probably rotate with Doherty.
Or Cody.
So
Cody steps into the back line sometimes with Doherty in front.
That's the thing. So there's moments where there'll be an injury or there'll be tiredness, especially with games coming thick and fast. Like we've got one coming up Wednesday. So it's like, actually, will Cody maybe rotate out and Coventry sit?
Well, I think that's got to be a blessing of the squad that we're now starting to build, the fact we are able to have those conversations, because many times we've said, well, if Coventry gets injured, Roy Anderson stepping in or whatever, and we're saying how a drop-off, whereas actually now, for example, Amari Bell gets injured, Cody drops there, Coventry drops into midfield. Cody gets injured, we have Coventry. Doherty gets injured, maybe Sonny Carey.
There's depth, isn't there?
There's depth there.
Yeah,
So
which is
I think that's
encouraging.
actually, if you want, and the one thing you want is actually good quality depth, because I think we actually, throughout this first half of the season, what we've seen is there probably is a depth of players, but there's a significant
There's a
lack
drop
of
off.
quality. And actually, are we now creating that squad that, Nathan Jones builds this squad where you don't get too upset if you drop out a game for 2 games.
Well, I think that's what Jones has always said, is he wants 2 quality players in each position, because ultimately then, if someone's not playing so well, you can just rotate it out. Likewise, if someone's injured, if someone's tired.
That competitive nature, drop off, you have another player dropping in. So, no, it'd be an interesting
But no, it is interesting to see what happens, whether Coventry gets rotated in for the next game, for example. There's a good chance, I reckon. But
yeah, especially as they come thick and fast, and we've got important ones. So, so the final one on those good side of things, I thought arguably for a target man, 10 out of 10 performance, Lyndon Dykes. I'd probably actually say 9 out of 10, because I do think he probably should have put the ball in the back of the net, maybe. But away from that, I don't think you could ask much better. And as I say, the one thing I felt kind of sorry for him was probably the fact that Kelman predominantly, but then Godden, who maybe didn't play off him as well. Because I think if someone was on their A game there, we've got some very good chances.
He won. I've noticed today, he won us a lot of fouls just from going up for a header and people ploughing into the back of him.
But is that championship experience?
Yeah, I think so. He's wily. He knows if he goes up for the header, he's going to get a little nudge in the back, win us a foul, gets us up the pitch, and it
but
makes
in a
big
smart
difference.
way. Because I think we've seen, for example, Miles Leeburn goes down quite a lot, but I think we've said so many times he does it in a much more obvious manner that refs start to get a bit annoyed with.
100%.
And don't really feel sorry. Whereas I think with Lyndon Dykes, he does it in the right way.
But if he's not getting fouled as well, he's winning the flick-ons. So the amount of times today where the ball went up, and before we were getting so frustrated that the flick-ons were just aimless, going nowhere, or just up in the air, and we were just losing the ball. A lot of his little flick-ons today were just little glances that just put the ball into the right areas, and it actually gives people like Kelman, if they're on it, and Campbell and others that have got pace, to really get on the end of those. On top of that, he was obviously really bullish and sort of making the defence.
I thought holding it up really well, everything.
Held it well, but also got shots away. He looks like really hungry as well, which we said he would be, because he wants to get in that Scotland squad. He obviously wants to play well for Charlton. He clearly is there for a reason. So he's showing exactly the sort of qualities that we thought he would show. But it's just nice to actually see it sort of really showing in the game, and really encouraging actually. But he's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I thought, I'd say, as good as you could really ask for away from the goal. It's to say it was brilliant, and I think if that is the side of him, we're going to start seeing more.
Well,
so as well, remember, he's going to get fitter and fitter. He's going to get more switched on.
Obviously we haven't covered the Leicester game, but that finish in that game was bloody tidy. And actually, if he can bring a bit of quality finishing as well as those other attributes we've just talked about, he's a really, really valuable addition to the squad, to the team. And I think he's going to start most games, to be fair. It looks like.
I think so, and especially with, I don't know what the situation's looking like with Miles' injury. I don't think it's too bad, but he's definitely.
I think he'll be the number one sort of target man for the rest of the season. So.
Although once again, competition's there, because he wants to perform for the World Cup, and the only way he does is by getting good performances in. Because at the moment you have got, when he comes back, Miles Leeburn, you've got Matty Godden, you've got Kelman. There's loads of players there who, anyone who drops off, you've got a replacement for the next game. So I think that competition there is going to only breed kind of more confidence. So well, going on to that, we're talking about how you need good performances to stay in this side now, potentially at the moment. Someone who I thought was on the poorer side, we've discussed him already a little bit, but Charlie Kelman, I thought he just didn't look at the races today. He looked
frustrating as well, because we said before the game kicked off, wouldn't it be so good if he got a goal against QPR? Because I know their fans are giving him a bit of jip.
Do you think he looks a bit nervous because he was playing QPR or something? I just
maybe
when the ball came into him, he didn't really ever take it down very well. I thought second half he definitely, in that 20-minute spell before we dropped off, he started to get into the game a little bit more.
Yeah, he was better in that early part of the second half when he had that shot that he managed to get away. I just think he looked a little bit off it. He didn't look quite as sharp as sometimes he always tends to. And the other thing that he's usually very good at is the sort of really sort of high harrying and the sort of pressing, which he didn't actually come across as if he was sort of
play, which I thought he didn't quite make the right decisions when it came to. I just said over
just a bit off, wasn't it?
Yeah, off performance, and it's one that he has now. When you've got someone like, and I know he's not going to be playing 90 minutes week in week out, but you've got players like Matty Godden coming back from
like for like
fitness. He's got to be a little bit careful with some performances, but hopefully it is kind of a bit more of a kind of just an off day,
Yeah.
because I also think it's exciting. I'd like to see the kind of Dykes performance with someone like a Kelman kind of playing that, and also I think we've got to look at Kelman as well. In TC's kind of vying for that role as well
Yeah.
now. That left wing back role.
Yeah.
seems
But I know
slightly-
Kelman was on the bench for the Leicester game, so it's like it is tough for strikers when they're sort of one game they're on the bench, then they come back in. Strikers generally need a bit of a run in the side to actually start to get their sort of self back in that sort of momentum. So maybe that's partly it as well, that he's sort of being in and out. It's quite difficult. But
yeah. We were going to just do the one. I'm going to overrule this today. One that I think, having discussed the game through, that I do think we can add in there. Personally, for me, I thought TC. I think he had the impact when he came on, but I think I was a little bit disappointed as the game. And this is probably one more coming from my side, whether you agree with it or not. I don't care. But no, I thought it was a game where we desperately needed his style of player and to get on the ball and make some right decisions, maybe play a 1-2 and run off. And I just thought everything with him personally, away from that first little chance where he kind of ran in, he just didn't really seem... I know they were doubling up on him, but then he had the kind of giving the ball away in some silly positions. I thought overall a pretty poor cameo.
But these are, again, the things that we sort of criticise him for. And like unfortunately, that's been quite consistent throughout his time, really. I know League One he was more threatening because of probably the calibre of players coming up against. But what we found in the Championship is he's coming up against stronger defensive players. And all of a sudden, it's not just as simple as just tap it past and you'll run through them. Players are going to be, running up against you. They're going to be physical. And I think today, when he came on, like you said, that initial, you were like, "Oh, is he going to start?"
Yeah,
stretching
and that's what I thought. Because
Yeah.
I thought that as well. They're not a team who, in the defensive sides, were blessed with pace. He had the beating. I mean, we've discussed so many times being a player who's probably busted their gut all game, and you see TC coming out running against you, and you could see they doubled up on him. But I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't.
Also, as a player with those attributes, like coming on when you know the teams are tiring, you must be licking your lips, like, and you think that give you a bit more incentive to be like, right.
And
I'm
that
really
first
gonna
ball
go
in,
for
he
it
got
and
in, and Carey just blazed it over. It's a bit of an overstretch, but you thought at that point, okay, this is now going to be the outlet that we sometimes rely on too much. But certain points in the game could become unstoppable if you're on your.
I think it's twofold. The negatives for him today were probably he didn't get enough of what we sort of expected to see from him in terms of getting down that line.
And what we desperately needed.
What we needed to break them down. But then on top of that, it was the sloppiness in terms of giving the ball away a few times. And one could have been catastrophic if it wasn't for Kaminsky being on his.
Yeah, and I think they're the kind of moments we've got to be careful, because all that hard work we put in today and all that maybe deservedness of those first 70 minutes, just through maybe being a bit kind of lackadaisical about whatever you want to look at it, is can pull apart the things. And we similar with that Ramsey moment. Like, I know they're mistakes, but they're so costly at this level.
It's why at the end of the game, actually, when the whistle goes and you end up taking the point, you're like, okay, there's a little bit of relief there, because there were a couple of moments, squeaky moments in that game where you thought, actually, we could have thrown this away. And all that hard work, like you said, you put in to sort of build that sort of stability in the game is thrown away by a silly mistake. And we still do occasionally have that in our locker. I know all teams will, and there'll always be moments in games, but we do have to be careful that we don't just switch off. And Jones would have been livid if that had happened, to be fair. So.
No, 100%. Well, there we go. QPR done. Two more incredibly important home games. I think this little run we've got, and actually there's a few games kind of coming up as well. I think we've got, I'd say, the next kind of 5 or 6 games define our season. To be honest, they're incredibly important. But first of all, it will be coming up next Wednesday, I believe it is.
Wednesday,
Stoke at home. I think a game that if you had probably taken about 2 or 3 months ago, would have been incredibly fearful of a game. Stoke dropped off massively in regards to their early season form. I think I had a look at the
They're
table.
only 6 points
above us, which seems crazy when we consider we were having conversations at the beginning of the season of would they be in that top 2 area. So clearly a team that is struggling, albeit I looked at some of their results as well. They seem to blow a bit hot and cold. I think had a draw against Birmingham recently. I think beat Coventry, but then also dropped points as well. And I think it's an interesting one, especially with them being away from home and us having the home game. It's another one similar to the QPR game that I think we can go in. Leicester win. This performance pretty good.
Build on it.
The draw, build on it. And I think... I say, whereas I not long ago would have been saying this is one it's going to be really tough, and I'm sure it will be. Every game is. I
Yeah.
think there's some points there.
Weirdly, as well, when we played them away from home, they did beat us 3-0,
It's a
but
prick game, wasn't it?
they had
Two of the
some
goal.
horrible Sorba Thomas scoring a cross, and like they had some, and actually for a decent amount of that game, we looked. I know they scored a few fluke goals, but we actually looked all right against them. So if we can put in a performance that we have been doing the last couple of games, we're not conceding. We've gone 2 games without conceding a goal now. So if we can continue that, who knows? Like, we're at the Valley. We're looking stronger, I would say. Like, our performances are definitely looking better now.
I think there's still levels to come.
There are.
And I think we've got to move still in. We've got to move in this direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. We can't then drop back into another 2 or 3 games of dropping off. Because I also think going over those, so the Stoke game obviously really important, but the next 5 after that, when you look at some of the how vital you've got Pompey at home, who have hit a bit of a run of form, signed really well in January. I think 2 games in hand, if they can pick up some good points, could drag themselves.
Is it like Ebu
yeah,
they've brought him in, and he's already.
They brought in some. I thought some really good signings. We then got Southampton away, tough game, albeit once again up and down.
Yeah.
West Brom away, huge when you look at it.
Yeah.
Then Wrexham at home, Brum at home.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as there's some tough games, Wrexham and Brum are both very, very tough games, both big spenders. But that West Brom game, the Portsmouth game, and both of those being
teams
home
around you as well.
There's some huge games. And I think what's so vital at the moment is we just keep
momentum,
grinding away, momentum, performances, and those points will start to drip in. And there's some teams there who are free falling. But you've only got to look at, I think, Blackburn, who picked up some points against Sheffield Wednesday.
Scraped.
Most people are. I was going to say scraped 1-0. West Brom are free fall of the century. Leicester have now got their points deduction. Which I have to say, I was incredibly disappointed at only being 6. But I don't know who they paid off at EFL. But
well, to be fair, they have all of a sudden they're level on points with the relegation zone, aren't they? So,
and it's a toxic. I mean, you've only got to see. I mean, but I've looked at a lot of online. They are in an incredible.
Do you know what though? With Leicester as well, they've got high caliber players who are on a lot of money who might not be up for that fight. You see it regularly where all of a sudden you've got players that have come down from the Premier League. They're not going to be wanting to be in a relegation dogfight. And some of those teams like Portsmouth, you just mentioned, who are starting to pick up form, those players are right in it, but they're well up for it. So you could see it quite clear. And West Brom are another one, got some quite high profile players. All of a sudden, are they in it for the dogfight? And
if you would have said 2 or 3 months ago, West Brom are sitting in the relegation zone, I still feel Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday. Also, Oxford have shown a little bit of flight, a little bit of glimpses, but I still think they're going to be down there. But that, as I say, at the moment, Blackburn and West Brom are the 2 that are kind of sitting in there. Leicester are level on points of it as well. We have got an opportunity in some of those games that if they carry on this free fall for a little bit longer, just keep gaining that back up. As I say, I think it's...
that's why today's point is big, because every point matters now. And all of a sudden, we're 4 points clear of the relegation. So that gives us the buffer. Very slight buffer, because 4 points isn't exactly, miles away from the relegation zone. But if we then build on that, like you said, and we say we did get 3 points against Stoke, all of a sudden that does bump you quite a bit away. So
now we're probably looking at it when you look at the averages, which we have, and they generally do paint a bit of a picture, but you probably look at between 14 to 16 points. 14 takes us to the magic 50. 52 I think is the highest over recent years. So if you went up to that 52, you're looking at 14 points from 16 games. So that, to me, there's definitely, and that's why it's so important to chip away, because that 1 point might be disappointing. We 1 point for the rest of the season, which isn't going to happen, but you get to that kind of point. So I think you can't underestimate how important it is to still pick up those little points in between, because when the curtains close at the end of the season, they could be big differences.
Absolutely.
So, well, let's have a look. We've kind of discussed over a little bit anyway, but we'll bring up the table quickly. So, us sitting in 17th, as I say, we've kind of discussed the teams below. Norwich, with their incredible run of form, are still sitting 3 points behind us, which is quite nice. But yeah, as I say, it seems like at the moment the free falling sides are your Leicester, Blackburn, and West Brom. But I'm pretty happy looking at that.
It's not too bad, is it? It could be a lot worse. I think we've got, like you said, some big games coming up. The Portsmouth and West Brom stand out, absolutely.
I think we're a few wins within that and maybe a couple of draws picking up to actually being able to kind of pull ourselves a bit more away from it.
Yeah.
It's just, does that happen? As I say, I think we've definitely built a really good platform for us to now push on from.
Yeah.
And I have full faith that Nathan Jones will kind of culminate that all together and keep us pushing in the right direction. Because it seems like we've got that spirit back, that fight.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, only a few weeks ago, that we were saying, no, actually, is Jones on the ropes here? But he has spun it around a little bit. That Leicester game was massive. Like, those 3 points were huge. And then building today on obviously getting another point against QPR, who are, like we said before, a decent side.
Yeah.
Stoke aren't mugs. Like, that's not going to be an easy game. But
QPR are 3 points off the playoffs.
Exactly.
No, I think I'm surprised they are considering today. But I think we did it in our prediction at the beginning of the year. I think teams like QPR, and there's so many of these in the Championship. They're so hard to call. 1 week they can look really bad. 1 week they can look absolutely electric. And, I mean, I think you've only got to look at it with their biggest wins this season. I think sitting at 5-1 with a 7-1 defeat to Coventry. It's their other one. It's a mad division.
It is. But it's an exciting one. And actually, for us, all that matters is that we're putting in performances week in, week out. And then whatever happens after that, it's like you get what you put in, don't you?
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's got to be just one final special mention, which is over the kind of discussion we've had there around Nathan Jones. He'll be a rare modern manager who's hit his 2-year anniversary, which I think is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
And you can see from his interviews of late, the one thing I love about it, he absolutely bleeds Charlton Athletic.
Yes.
And for all the frustrations we have of him, I think I do just look back and for me, when he came in, the kind of dark days we'd become so accustomed to, you can only ever thank everything he's done for the club. And yes, he kind of describes it in the perfect way, which is like a relationship. You have moments where you fall out, you have moments and all this, but the realistic side is you love him to pieces, and he's our nut.
And the thing is as well, like there's times where he frustrates the hell out of you and is tactically and whatever. And I think I put a tweet out about him saying, when I saw him sort of at the end of the Leicester game going over to the fans and sort of apologising for the obviously shower that they had to watch against Millwall, that hurts him. And like you can see it, and you can actually tell that, like you said, he bleeds Charlton. He's been, don't forget, he was at Charlton before he went off to Luton and all these other clubs. So he has that sort of Charlton in his sort of history as well. And you can tell like he loves being there, and actually that goes a long way. Like as fans, we see it, even when he frustrates us. So yeah, no, 2 years is a big achievement, and actually, hopefully, a good few more. So
it's like I think the way I'd look at it as a final kind of piece there is it's like family. Sometimes you don't always get on, but sometimes you have to sit on a sofa and do a podcast every week. So
yeah, free gritted teeth,
you have to do it. Well, there we go. It's been brilliant to be back. As I say, we'll be back for all of the games, hopefully going forward. If you see me with some bags under my eyes, it's because the newborn's not sleeping very well. But yeah, we look forward to the Stoke game. Hopefully 3 points, and we will see you on the next one.